Hi all, this is Skate, and this is the Panther M10, the Tier 7 Premium Medium tank. Now, I'm a fan of this tank, not because it's OP, far from it. It's pretty much because it's real. And the story behind this tank fascinates me. Now, for all intensive purposes, this is a Panther. It's just dressed up to look like an M10 American tank destroyer. And like I said, the story is fascinating. I've previously read up a lot about it, and I strongly recommend you guys do as well, because if you're interested in that sort of thing, well, this is probably one of the most interesting ones. The crux of it is Hitler had some harebrained scheme to basically dress the German soldiers up as British and Americans, obviously wearing the appropriate uniform, obviously use captured Allied vehicles, and basically go in through the Allied lines and capture the bridges over the Mouse River. Obviously, the idea is for them to go in undetected and basically cause a scene behind the lines then. However, it was a flop, and the reason it was a flop is because of a lack of captured vehicles, a lack of uniform, and a lack of equipment. But they were only able to come up with one captured Sherman tank, which one captured tank to go in behind the lines really wasn't enough. So what they did is get a bunch of Panther tanks, and they really did do a hell of a job trying to change the appearance of these to get in behind the lines undetected. Sheet metal was welded all the way around the hull to make it look like the M10 hull, and it even made if you look on the front of these things, you've got the drive sprocket housing shape from the N10 as well. The hull even goes as far as putting all the brackets, lifting eyes and towing devices in the right places, including the fake exhaust exits at the back. In terms of the turret, obviously they've cut it and shaped the sheet metal into the stereotypical M10 turret shape, as you can see there. The Panther also has a very tall, distinctive cupola, which was also removed, and two flat hatches put on top instead, just to give the whole flat appearance as well. So they went pretty far and into a lot of detail with this. They then went and painted it in your US Army olive drab, and then painted stars on the side of the turret and on the front of the hull. This is a picture of one of the knocked out Panther M10s, and I don't know why, but why is the gun in the wall? And then this is a picture of a real M10. You can see they've gone to as many details as they can, but the reality is the Panther shape is still different. And the key thing is if you look at the tracks, look at the width difference on those tracks, and obviously the gun is another giveaway. Those differences are pretty significant. Would they have been significant from about a kilometre or so away? Probably not until it's too late. And nobody will ever know the answer to that. And the reason nobody will know the answer to that is because the plan went, politely put, tits up. The plan was obviously to send these guys in and then an SS Panzer division to basically cause a scene elsewhere. However, because of a lack of troops and a lack of tanks the Germans could get together, their plan fell through, and they basically sent these into battle behind the 1st SS Panzer Division. So they didn't even manage to test the concept. It was only after these were knocked out as part of the battle against the 120th US Infantry Regiment on the 21st of February 1945 did they realise what these were. Obviously, if the Germans' plans came together, these had the potential to cause some serious issues behind the Allied lines. But they didn't, so we'll never actually know. Now that's basically the short story version of the events. I would recommend giving it a Google search, having a look, get some information on it, because it is a really interesting story. There is a lot more information to it, but obviously that's just a shorthand. Okay, anyway, I've rambled enough. On with the tank. I think we've established from that story it's pretty much just a Panther. Except, I'm a fan of the Panther, but this is better than the Tech Tree Panther. On paper, it looks worse than the Panther, but in reality, it's not. I do want to compare these things very quickly via Blitz Tank Compare, and what I will be comparing will be the top gun on the Panther, which was the 7.5cm L100 gun, against the 7.5 L70 gun on the M10. First thing that's very obvious, they both have exactly the same DPM, the same alpha, the same rate of fire, and the same reload. The penetration, it's massively better on the Panther, But you need to bear in mind the Panther has one of the best standard AP pens of any tanker tier 7, which, when you're comparing the two side by side, makes the Panther M10 look worse. Now, even when we switch to the APCR on the Panther M10, it's still got less penetration than the standard AP on the Panther. So the penetration is lacking, which means we are going to need some APCR for higher tier heavy tanks. The other thing then as well is the dispersion. The dispersion is very good, 0.31 on the M10, but it doesn't compare to the 0.28 on the Panther. The Panther, the top gun, is like a laser beam, it really is. The other thing here is the gun depression. The Panther M10 gets 2 extra degrees of gun depression. You can fit this gun on a Panther. It's not the top gun, and you will get the same 8 degrees of gun depression, but you wouldn't do that just for the 2 degrees of gun depression when you've got all the other extra bits on top. And obviously people don't really know that from the game figures. The other things you'll see here as well is the Panther M10 is a little bit slower than the normal Panther, and as I'm highlighting here, most importantly, on paper the turret armor is considerably worse. Now I'm saying on paper because in reality it really doesn't play out that well, and for that we are going to need Armor Inspector. But statistically, as you can see, the Panther is better in most aspects, nearly every aspect. Yet, looking at these figures here, the win rate, the average damage, the damage ratio, the average kills, all of the figures are better on the Panther M10 than they are on the Panther. So here we are in Armor Inspector, and this is the top turret and top gun on the Panther. And what we're also going to have a quick look at is the stock turret. And as you can see, the stock turret is virtually the same as the Panther M10's, except it doesn't have that giant weak spot at the top, as we mentioned at the start. That was taken off. So this turret, without that weak spot, basically has that giant gun mantlet. This one still has a weak spot on top, and it has all that nice flat armor around the gun and on the cheeks. You'll see that front is 120 there, but again, it's all flat, so you can easily penetrate that. If you've got a Panther ducking in and out of cover, you generally just fire at the turret, and you have a very high likelihood of just penetrating the front of its turret. It's very clear from that, only 120mm of armor on the front of it. Now, the Panther M10 is shown as only 100mm of frontal armor. However, it has a mantlet which covers the entire front, and as you can see there is no weak spot on top. What this basically means is the entire front of the Panther M10 turret is rounded, and all of that nice rounded armor is spaced armor. In effect, there's patches on this front turret which go up to 200mm thick, and if you're wiggling back and forth, there's a good chance you're going to get bounces off this turret compared to the Panther one. Now some people are thinking, hang on, the mantlet on the Panther M10 is not rounded. The armor actually is rounded, however, remember it's sheet metal over the top of it, which makes it look pointed, like the actual M10 tank destroyer. But the actual game sets it up as rounded, so the armor's rounded on it. You can see here we've got a 100% chance of pen if you smack it there. That's bang in the middle, so it's not rounded. Yet, if we look by there, the effective thickness is 170 by there. It changes throughout the entire front of that mantlet because of the spaced armor and because it's rounded. So, in effect, keep that turret wiggling and you'll have no problems at all. The other thing is it almost looks like it has spaced armor, which some people think blocks heat. This thing does not have spaced armor. The outside armor, or sheet metal, because it is just sheet metal, it's not armor. It won't do you any good whatsoever. The only place this will help is if you can see you've got the outside sheet metal and then you've got the sides of the cheeks, or the turret. People are aiming for those cheeks. It's not going to do any damage if they aim too far out, because it'll actually miss the turret itself. It also shields the angle your turret is at, so you do increase the chance of bounces just from people aiming at that, let's just say, sheet armor, and the turret underneath is at a considerably more aggressive angle, so it looks like you can pen those cheeks. The reality is, if you aim for the cheeks too far out, you are going to be getting bounces off them. All in all, the M10 turret is considerably better than the stock Panther because it loses that turret, loses the cupola on the top, And it's better than the top turret on the Panther because, well, it's a Panther turret. We all know what that's like. It's very easy to penetrate. So, on with some gameplay. I love to go left on this map. Obviously when I'm on this side or on the other side I like to go right. And the reason being is I like to spot. Now we are top tier, so you can play this tank pretty aggressively when you are top tier. As long as you still, obviously, try and angle appropriately. My team are going to go right, and I am going to go left. You get a lot of people rage in game about this when you abandon your team and you go a separate way. I don't see it as that much of a bad thing. I mean, the reality is, if everybody goes right and the enemy team go right, you're not going to know who's going to flank who first and who's going to spot who first. So there's no harm, in my opinion, in going this way, spotting up what's coming, and then obviously either falling back to your team or hoping your team come and help you. The problem you've got is when you come around the corner and you see all of them. So I am the only one on the left flank, and there is all 7 of them. So as you can see, I'm not going to be a smartass or cocky. I am backing the hell up. I could stay on that ridge, get some more shots into the Type or T29, but I would get nailed by the IS and everything else that comes around the corner. Instead, what I intend to do is get behind this building and side scrape it off the building. This is a German tank at the end of the day. It is a fantastic side scraper. And although I am hiding behind this bush, and I have already been spotted, I will drop off the map, and I will not be spotted as a result. Now this guy, he doesn't have a repair kit, which pretty much means I can sit here and nail him non-stop. The rate of fire on this, as we've already established, is just insane. With adrenaline on, it's less than 3 seconds a shot, so that guy had no hope in hell. I don't understand why people don't carry repair kits. I am trying to prioritise this VK on the left-hand side, because if I pop out and try and shoot something on the right, well, I could get nailed by the VK. So my priority is to try and take him out first. Obviously keeping an eye on the right-hand side at the same time. I know that T29 was last seen on the ridge. The VK appears to be backing up though, so that means it puts everybody back in front of me and means that we can just prioritise concentrating in front of us. Now this is an example of the lack of pen. Shot the track there, didn't actually do any damage really. So what I'm going to do is put the APCR on, and I'm just going to aim for the cupola on this IS. And pretty much every single shot nails him, and he's out as a result. Now we were firing the APCR at him, but every shot landed on target where we wanted to. And the only shot he managed to get off in return bounced. And you'll notice here I'm after the T29 now, and I am side scraping it off. Again, another example of the lack of penetration. I'm trying to shoot his lower plate because I can't pen his upper plate. And it's a T29, and that one bounced off his lower plate. So we have at this point been shot by the T29 and the IS, and we've bounced both their return fires. And when we are prioritising our fire non-stop into the same tank, you'll notice we've taken every single one out very quickly. I've switched into the APCR just to go through the front of that angled T150. Again, the lack of pen over a long range. It's really frustrating sometimes. And now I'm getting nailed by what I'm assuming is the Nashorn, because we last saw him down that location. And we have 4 kills, there are 3 left. I don't think I'm going to get the VK. I'm being careful because of the Nashorn. I noticed the VK doing a run for it, and we nail him. Sorry. Oh, I bet he never expected that shot to come in from there. So we've got 5 kills. There's a KV-1S, which I don't think we're going to get to. Obviously, he's head-to-head with our KV-1S, so I'm going to load an APCR and try and go through his cheek, and we do ninja that kill. Which means it's just a Nashorn left. And again, we do produce another bounce off that Nashorn. I want this kill, but yeah. We don't get it. That was a great game and a heartbreak at the same time. I deserved it though. I nicked the KV-1S's kill and he nicked the last one, which is fair enough. I was still happy, it was a good game, and we got ourselves a scout medal out of that one as well. We made 77,000 net profits, but 30 of that was from a mission. So we walked away with 40, and I like to think we did very well and carried that game. I don't think we really gave the enemy any chance to do anything there. It would have been nice to have the 7 kill, considering we spotted so on and so forth. I would have liked that 7th kill, but we didn't get it. It's not the end of the world. There's always the next one, eh? So, on to the next game. We are bottom tier in this one. We are in a tier 8 match. Now, although we are still bottom tier, I do still play this tank pretty aggressively. It's very easy to get overconfident in this. It's a big tank. It's got reliable armor. Don't get me wrong, anything fires APCR at you, you are going to get nailed. But I'm confident in this tank. If you use the gun depression, obviously you're increasing the effective armor on the front, and if you're wiggling, you're going to produce a fair few bounces. But if there's anything tier 8 shooting at you, there's a good chance it's going to penetrate. So you should still be careful. But what I like to do, as you can see, is I'm trying to use the ridges by here. I'm going to get up and I want a spot, so I am pushing very aggressive. And I have noticed the team behind me, which is why I can be even more aggressive. No point wasting a shot there, we wouldn't have got it in, but there is an IS-3 by here. Taking a tier 7 medium tank up against the front of an IS-3 is not a wise idea. Unless you've got APCR. And you can penetrate that roof all day long. The IS-3 roof is so weak and so many people don't shoot it. For those who don't know, that roof on the IS-3 is only 30mm thick. And if you just put shot after shot onto that roof, it'll go through every time. Well, nearly every time. If you are in a tank taller than an IS-3, just aim for that roof plate. Don't waste your time trying to aim down at the lower plate. Now, in this circumstance, he is going to get away, and I can't shoot the roof as well, so I'm just going to hit the track and try and keep him there for my team. Now that he is tracked, I am going to go for the lower plate, because, as I said, if you're aiming down on that roof, no problem at all. If not, it's a big waste of time. I just said lower plate. I meant upper plate. My apologies. So the IS has been dealt with, and a T-29 on the enemy team. That's two very dangerous tanks taken out already. And obviously my team has pushed ahead, so obviously I can carry on and basically be quite aggressive again. Also, the other thing I want to point out is don't worry about firing APCR at heavily armoured targets. The reality is you need it. It doesn't make you a noob. There seems to be this stigma attached to, ooh, you need to fire APCR at a heavy tank. Well, yeah, if the armor's all red and I can't see anything, and I got no chance of penetrating with 150mm of pen, I'm going to load APCR for that. And if they penetrate, I'm not going to lose credits. That doesn't make you a noob in any shape or form. Don't get me wrong, if you fire nothing but APCR just so you don't have to aim your shots, then yeah, that's overkill, that's a waste of money, and that's a waste of time. And that does... You're actually restricting your own learning abilities there, because you won't learn the weak spots on tanks. You'll just load APCR, point and shoot, and hope for the best. Learning the weak spots on tanks and then using the APCR if you need it is a big difference. So yeah, don't go overthinking the APCR thing. And obviously don't go wasting it if you don't need to. Now, this guy's already fired, so I'm quite confident that we can just sit here nailing him because it's a Blaze, and we know for a fact, because the recent preview and review, he's got an awful rate of fire. Now, because I'm trying to shoot this IS on the move, I have loaded the APCR, but you'll notice I change back to the AP once I've stopped moving as much because I can easily just hit the lower plate now. You'll also notice I'm driving backwards rather than face-hugging him, and my rate of fire is considerably better. So I've managed to kill them, and the LTTB has taken 4 out on my team. So he is a good player, or I should be cautious. However, I have double the health, so I'm not concerned. I'm also not concerned by the fact I completely dunked that shot, because I know it's only literally another 3 seconds before I reload and get my next shot into him. So we do win that one, we have 3 kills. So that was a pretty close game. End result, though, is obviously we did get a win. 2,844 damage, 49,000 net profits, and a first class and high caliber. Before we go into the next match, I just want to show you this clip very quickly. I think it gives a good example of what to do and what not to do in these scenarios. You'll notice I'm constantly angling my tank slightly away from the enemy, which means I'm going to get tracked a lot, and he does bounce a fair few as a result, which helps when you are dogfighting, because angling this tank really does increase your armor, and look how often I've been tracked without damage in that scenario. So even in a one-on-one, I still think I would have won that quite comfortably. And here is an example of what not to do. There is a low health enemy SU-152 by there. Yeah, we all know what's coming. So I'm going to try and get some shots into him, but That wasn't a wise idea, was it? Also, before this next match starts, I just want to run through equipment. Now, I run, which I think is an essential thing, is your medium caliper tank gun rammer, and I run improved vents. But for your third slot, you've got a choice. I run the gun lane drive, just because I want to make sure every one of my shots is fully aimed up before I've reloaded, because it has a quick reload. But you need to also remember this tank has a below average view range for a tier 7 medium tank. So coated optics are also a very good shout. So I'd say you have an option on that front. Separate to that, my ammunition, I run 53 AP and I carry 24 APCR. I do carry 5 HE just in case, but you don't really use the HE much on this. And for provisions, I run double chocolates and the improved fuel to help with the mobility. On this game, we are taking the bottom route, hoping to bump into people. Instead, we haven't seen anyone, so we are probably going to jump them from behind now. So instead of going all the way around, I'm going to come up here to see if I can get some spots in. And what we see is a lonely M7. I only get 1 or 2 shots into him, and there is a VK driving into the side of me. Thanks very much, mate. Why do people do that? Really frustrates me. They drive into the side of you and then block your view. As a result, we couldn't get any more shots in from the position we were, so instead we are going to have to push up. That M7 and that VK just did the same thing that my VK just did to me. So I do need to push up, but I need to be cautious, because on the left-hand side we know there are 6, and on the right-hand side we know there is a lonely KV-1S cut-off, so let's see if we can take him out first before prioritising the right-hand side. As I say that, the enemy VK has just taken out our friendly KV-1. And as the KV-1S is not too prioritised on us, we did get a couple of shots in him. As I say that though, a J-Panther's right in front of us. So I am going to back it up behind the rock, and you'll see I am trying to side scrape again. Angling this tank is always the way forward. I mean, I've got 2 shots in there from my position now. I am not going to be able to get any more shots in him. So I am carefully watching my left-hand side as I push up, and I am going to try and angle off these rocks again. I tried to angle the front. I didn't actually side scrape here, which in hindsight I should have. I know my team's behind me though, so it means we do need to push up quickly. But it is now level playing. We have 4, they have 4. And all 4 of ours are on this side, and all 4 of theirs are round by there as well. So I'm going to reverse to see if we can spot anything. As we do, a VK comes around the corner, so I quickly try and angle away from the hull. I think he's looked at me and then noticed that VK behind me and decided to shoot him instead. And I can't shoot the VK, so I'm going to try and shoot the angled M6. I do bounce my first one, my second one does go through. And then the VK on the enemy team gets taken out, and one of ours has been taken out. So we're still level pegging 3-3. That M6 is on very low health, so we can finish him off very quickly, which means we are now in the lead. Now we do need to push up here, and this next bit by here is something that the Panther would really struggle at. So this is where I think the Panther M10 has that huge advantage. As I mentioned, it is only 2 degrees extra gun depression, but you'll notice I'm trying to angle slightly off the building. And with that extra 2 degrees of gun depression, we can just pop up the ridge. We know we're very strong in this position, and we can just take shot after shot into this T-43. He is being nailed from the side as well, but he's pushing up to me. He bounces one. I do get nailed in the back by the SP-1C though. Now, I am low health, and that SP-1C is full health. I know for a fact that I have more teammates, so it's usually at this point in the game where I go a bit stupid, because I think, what the hell, why not? I wonder if I can jump on him. I do try to jump on him, and I screw up and miss. And although I miss, you have to remember I am a lot heavier than him, so he does get a shot into me, but I have a much quicker reload. And if I keep reversing back and driving back and forth into him, I'll continue to do plenty of damage and push him up the wall. You'll see a lot of people just ram the SP-1Cs. Rather than just ram them, keep reversing back and forth into them, and you'll keep doing plenty of damage. But that did mean, although it didn't feel like it in the game, we did 3,200 damage and 70,000 net profits on that one. Now, I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that damage, because in the game I genuinely didn't feel like I did that much. I'm guessing obviously ramming the SP-1C had a lot to do with it though. Now, the last game of all my videos I try to make sure is a mastery video. This one is no different. This one, we are only one of 2 tier 7s on either team. All 5 of the rest on both teams are tier 8. So my instant reaction is this is going to be a tough game. When you have a team lineup like this, you can't help but instantly go, oh well, it's going to be hard for me to contribute a fair amount of damage or a fair amount of anything to this game, really, when you think you are bottom tier. And by the look of the enemy team, they have some pretty heavily armoured tanks. So gun-ho doesn't work in these sort of scenarios, I find. What I find works more is strategy and tactics. Which is why, obviously, I am pushing the flank quite aggressively. My logic here is, although I may not be able to dish out huge amounts of damage to some of these things, I can spot, and I can spot quickly, and I can help the team see where all the enemies are. And then, because I'm on the flank, I can cause a distraction and just irritate people by picking shot after shot into the side of them, hopefully. That's the plan, anyway. As we know, plans don't always turn out as expected. As the Germans found out when they built this thing. Do you like what I did there? However, this time it does come together. They have pushed forward, the Reds have, pretty aggressively, which means I am literally on the flank. I'm right behind them. I dunk my first shot, but I do manage to get my second shot into this T-43. What that pretty much means is you'll notice he's turning around from my friendlies on the other side to focus me. Once he's turned around, I'm going to ignore him, and I'm going to shoot into the RU-251 to see if I can get him to turn around as well. So that's 2 out of 5 Reds have managed to turn around and face me instead of facing my other tier 8 tanks. Yes, it sounds suicidal, but if you think about it, the tanks on my team with the better armour, the better firepower, etc. have a better chance of survival now and getting some shots into the Reds. So although in encounter battles you can't always get your friendlies to do what you want, or to stop driving into the side of you, Jesus Christ, you can still try and employ tactics which will manipulate people. This tactic I love to do in light tanks. Very fast light tanks. This is phenomenally good fun to do. And there's another tank into the side of me. But yeah, in the light tanks, I like to get on the flank, put a couple of shots into a couple of different people, and then run away. Because you can guarantee a couple of them are going to turn to face you, which separates the Reds' ability to focus fire you, and it also means that your Reds can then, or your team can then put some fire into the back end of the enemy. Now in the game there, we lost a couple of tanks in very quick succession, which is why I turned around to try and help this T-44. T-44 has got away, and now I'm trying to focus the tank on the left-hand side alone. If we can get this guy out, it means that all of them are on our right, which means they're all together, which means you don't have to focus on just one. Well, you can focus on one flank, basically. And again, I can't get my team to focus fire. You never do it in encounter battle, but I can go and help him focus fire. So while this T-29 is busy with my friendly, I can take him out very quickly from behind. And obviously in this circumstance, I need as many friendlies as I can to survive. But T-29 does take him out just before I manage to take out the T-29. All 3 Reds are now on one side, and that T-44 is now my bait, because he's on so low health, everybody's going to be coming out and trying to nail him. I am in a very strong position to support my team friend, who I will refer to as bait from here on out because of his low health. And anyone that pops out to shoot him, I can shoot them. I do aim for the track wheel on that Borsig. I screwed that up though, and it did mean he got one nasty shot into me, which is actually the first shot we've taken in this game. So now that we've backed up into cover, you'll see the T-49 has come out to basically start picking off at the T-44. He doesn't have the gun depression from where he is to deal with him though, which means I'm aiming for track shots constantly, and if I can get some track shots, it's worth taking the return fire off him, because I will beat him. But it doesn't matter, I got an ammo rack, which made one very happy T-44. Okay, so we're now in a 2-on-2, but that Borsig has a lot of health, a very, very nasty gun. I try a blind fire just in case he has popped out and I haven't seen him. The T-44 does take out the T-43. So we're now in a 2-on-1, but again, he is on very low health. and that Borsig can pretty much deal with both of us very quickly, and he did deal with the T-43. As I know he's just shot though, I'm going to use that as my opportunity to get out of my cover and try and get in a little bit closer to the Borsig. Although he has a bloody nasty gun, I have much better rate of fire, and it's all about those track shots. And this is my favourite thing in the world. When a tier 8 tank comes attacking a tier 7 because he knows he has more health and he can one-shot him, they make mistakes. They just run around non-stop, just trying to nail you. He's never going to catch me, I've got the better mobility, and he's just dunked his shot, which means I'm sticking my adrenaline on, and because I know my reload is better, I'm going to go in and I'm going to get a couple more shots in quickly. I have the advantage now. He is in the water, slower mobility, I have a ledge to cover me, and a fantastic rate of fire, which means we can finish him off very, very quickly and win that match. So, predominantly tier 8 game. At the start, I felt like I wasn't going to do a lot, but trying to put the tank in its strongest position allowed us to do 3,600 damage, 58,000 net profits, 3 kills, and a high caliper. And I honestly do think it was the fact that I was on the flank allowed me to do this. I tried to get people to focus me by shooting at them. They turned around to focus me, which gave my team the advantage. But in the end, it was very close, and we did do well in that, I think. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. It is a long one, it's more like a documentary. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.